You ever get that cold prickling at the back of your neck, like someone's watching you from the dark? Sometimes those instincts are more real than you think. Tonight, these stories prove you're not alone. Have you ever been so sure you're alone, even though every instinct screams that you're being watched? You might call it paranoia, but sometimes it's survival. I grew up in rural Pennsylvania. Our house sat at the end of a gravel road, right where a pine forest starts. Windows looked out on black trees and broken moonlight. At 16, I told myself nothing out there could truly hurt me. My parents left for a weekend in late October, leaving me with Freedom and Scout, our golden retriever. I planned a night of horror movies, pizza, and no bedtime. Scout curled up by my feet, snoring as credits rolled. The wind rattled dead leaves scraping along the siding. It was nearly midnight when Scout suddenly stiffened, his ears up. He gave a warning growl I'd never heard before, and then I heard it too. Footsteps in the dry leaves outside. Careful, slow, not an animal, not random. Telling myself it was nothing, I crept to the kitchen and peeked through the blinds. What I saw, a tall, pale figure at the far edge of the backyard, half hidden among the trunks, facing the house. My heart hammered. I blinked. The figure was gone. Maybe it was the dark and the wind. Logic told me so. But when my phone pinged with a text from an unknown number, that chill sank to my marrow. You're not as alone as you think. Trying not to panic, I checked the locks, closed the blinds, tried to convince myself it was a prank, some kid nearby. I called my parents just for reassurance. No answer. I tried returning to my movie, but Scout just paced, staring at the back door. Minutes crawled by. My phone buzzed again. Nice dog. Now my hands shook. I ran to my room, shut Scout in with me, locked the door, and stood against the wall, listening to every tiniest sound the house made. Around 1 a.m. this time, there was a new sound. 3 slow knocks on the back door, not loud, not demanding, instead almost gentle, polite, as if whoever was out there wanted to make sure I heard and knew that I was being watched. Neither Scout nor I could sleep. I sat against the door, clutching my baseball bat, listening to the deep, low growl that never left his throat. Eventually, I must have dozed off. I woke just before sunrise to a final text. Next time, wave back. In the grey light, muddy footprints circled the house, pressed deep, sometimes pausing at windows. There was a handprint on the bathroom window, one I hadn't noticed last night, bigger than my own hand. The police searched the property, told us it was probably a harmless vagrant, but their faces said they knew it wasn't that simple. Years later, that chill, that certainty that someone, somewhere, is just out of sight, still catches me every time the wind moves through the pines. Most people ignore that prickling feeling, but sometimes the forest is watching you back. Graveyard shifts are supposed to be boring. That's exactly why I took one at a gas station in upstate New York. Easy money, empty highways, nothing but the sound of insects outside and far-off engine rumble. I never expected to find real fear in so much nothingness. It was 2018 and I'd worked there 3 months. Friday night shifts dragged. After midnight, you might see a cop, a trucker, or a stray dog. It was always quiet. I brought snacks, played podcasts, kept myself awake, but some nights the silence was so thick it made my skin itch. This night, the clock read 2:57 a.m. Nothing but the whine of fluorescence and my own yawn. I glanced at the ancient security monitors, half watching the black and white feeds from the pumps and corners of the lot. That's when I noticed him. A man. Tall, skinny, standing perfectly still at pump 4. He was facing the store, not the pumps, his hands in his jacket pockets, hood up so I couldn't see his face. Just the white of his old sneakers catching the floodlight. I waited, certain he'd walk inside, maybe ask for change or a coffee, but he just stood there. 15 minutes passed, unmoving, watching. I tried to work, nerves rising as each minute crawled. No cars passed. The man circled slowly, never coming close, always on the screen, shadowed face aimed my way. My phone pulsed with a message from an unknown number. "Nice green hoodie, looks warm." I froze. My uniform hid my hoodie underneath. Nobody in the store could have seen it. I ducked below the counter and grabbed my phone. My hands shook. Another buzz. "You look scared." I went to call the cops, but a soft, deliberate tap interrupted me. A single finger tapping the glass inches from where I'd just stood. I looked up. The man's face was now right behind the glass, his smile too wide, his breath fogging the pain a little. We stared at each other for what felt like an eternity. He turned, walked away into the darkness, out of the camera's view. I ran to the door and locked it, called 911, voice hoarse. Police arrived, combed the lot, but found nothing but a set of footprints circling and circling, weaving between the pumps and back to the edge of the woods. No car, no trail leading away. I quit the job the next week. But even in the city, sometimes at night, under a lone street light, my memory flickers to that face, silent, patient, knowing. The feeling that you're being watched never goes away completely. Some nights, the darkness isn't empty at all, it's just waiting for you to look up. Everyone in my old apartment building had stories about apartment 709. The 7th floor always felt colder. People said you could hear footsteps echoing inside long after 709 had been vacant. I moved in that spring, college, first real taste of freedom. The building was old brick, groaning pipes, always stuffy unless the windows were open. My own unit was across the alley from 709. No one ever saw lights in that window, but sometimes curtains would shift in a room no one rented. Halloween weekend, after a party upstairs, I headed home late. Rain pelted the glass. I took the stairs, ignoring the elevator's flickering bulb. On my floor, the hallway was darker than normal. Someone had killed the breaker again. I heard footsteps behind me, but saw nothing when I turned. In front of my door there was a note. "I like watching you sleep." My heart went cold. I looked out my window towards 709. For the first time in months, there was a shape behind the curtain. A pale face, mouth stretched in a slow, unnatural grin, dark eyes locked onto mine. I called the landlord, the police. Nothing. No one was supposed to be living in 709, and when they finally broke open the apartment, it was empty except for dust and a single lawn chair by the window. I moved out quickly after. But even now, in a different city, sometimes I'll wake and see a face, not through a window, but in the edge of a mirror or a dream, watching me with that same frozen patience. You can change where you live, but if something wants to keep watching, it finds a way. Trust your instincts. Sometimes the feeling of being watched doesn't come from inside your head at all. Sleep well, if you can. Some stories don't end when the screen goes dark. If you've ever felt eyes on you from the shadows, trust that feeling. On TaleMigo, we share true tales that remind us the real world can be far scarier than any ghost story. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more. And remember, sleep well if you can.